idea?
An idea for the show.
I still don't know what the idea is.
It's about nothing.
Right.
Everybody's doing something. We'll do nothing.
They say, what's your show about? I say nothing.
There you go.
I think you may have something here.
Cross Coast Bias presents the League About Nothing podcast.
All right, welcome in. I'm Jarsal. I'm joined by Alvarez13, and we're here to recap the 2023 League About Nothing rookie draft.
Yeah, because who better to talk about the rookie draft than the two managers that traded all their picks away, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think between the two of us, we had a second rounder and a fifth rounder.
We definitely started with a lot more picks than that.
Esther started with, and at one point, I think you had more picks than anyone except for Flea.
Yeah, I definitely had my hands on a lot of picks in this draft.
So before we get into the draft, we just want to say hello to everyone in the League About Nothing and anyone else who stumbled upon this podcast. We're very sorry. So we've got our plan here. Our plan is to do a couple of off-season podcasts here to recap first off the rookie draft, go back over any trades and moves over the off-season, maybe do a season preview episode with some, playoff projections, power ranking type, generalities. And then our hope is to do a weekly in-season podcast, recapping the previous week, previewing the next week, going over any moves that have taken place.
We will judge you.
Oh, absolutely. That's what we're here to do, isn't it? All right. So without any more delay, you ready to recap the rookie draft?
Let's get into it.
All right. First, right off the top, we had pick 101 taken by Flea. And surprising everyone, we had Bijan Robinson.
Surprising everyone or surprising no one?
Yeah, absolutely no one. Bijan's been the consensus number one overall for months before this, and everyone's been looking forward to being able to draft Bijan for years. So I know that you've been talking about Bijan since his rookie season. What'd you think?
I mean, the only surprise with this pick was that Flea jumped up to take the 101. I mean, she was collecting picks like crazy leading up into this draft. And she made the bet on herself, trading away her first next year and 107 to get up to 101. I mean, from the conversations we had, she really could not decide between Bijan Robinson and Anthony Richardson. So she said, well, I'll just take both. I mean, why not?
I mean, if you have the ability to get two players like that, it's a tough thing to pass up right there for sure.
Yeah, and the price actually wasn't too bad. I mean, future first and 107 is lighter than what I've seen in a lot of leagues. But I know that Georgia Mike wanted to get out of this pick. When you're starting a massive rebuild, which unfortunately he is taking over the orphan in this league, that was run into the ground. You got to take the assets you can get. Investing in running backs, probably not what you want to do to start out, but he did well to get a couple of decent picks back.
Yeah, it's a good move by him to, like you said, get out from the 101, which is a strange way to look at it. You don't want to reach and take a different player there if you're in the rebuild, and you could get more assets by just getting out. And moving back into this year and moving back into next year at the same time gives flexibility and more ability to build the team long term. And that's really what he needs right now after, as you said, it was decimated by its previous owner.
Yeah, it really depends on how you feel about Anthony Richardson. I mean, he's going in the late first of startup drafts right now. So there's a lot of hype on Anthony Richardson. I mean, he could have gone Richardson 101, but really what this team needs is as many assets as possible. So if you can split the 101 into multiple pieces, it's only going to help.
It's a good way to look at it. All right, so that's 101. At 102, Flea back on the clock right away with her own pick this time. Went with Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, this was a no-brainer pick at this point. I mean, Anthony Richardson, like I said, is going in the late first of startup drafts at this point. Yeah, there's been a lot of hype on Anthony Richardson. And we're going to find out shortly if it's well-deserved, because it looks like he's going to start immediately. The Colts don't seem to be slow playing this at all. What do you think?
No, they've given most indications that he's going to start right away. You and I have discussed this in other contexts before. I don't know that I fully believe it. You had a lot of teams across the league starting their rookie quarterbacks right from the get-go right now, but I don't know if they're going to follow that mold. You got a new head coach there who just came from being the offensive coordinator of a similar style quarterback in Jalen Hurts, and Hurts didn't start right from the beginning in his career. And they might want to try to emulate that because it seems to have worked out pretty well for Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think the difference there is, right, Philadelphia had Wentz, who was an established starter, as rocky as he had been at that point. You know, you're talking about a former top pick coming off I mean, he was on pace for an MVP season the year they won the Super Bowl without him. So, I mean, he had a lot more cachet versus Gardner Minshew coming in on a free agent deal and Richardson going 103 in the NFL draft, right? So it's a little bit different situation. But again, I think these young guys, especially Anthony Richardson, who did not play a lot in college, he needs to play. That's the only way he's going to get better. So they need to play him. You're just going to have to suffer through the bumps and bruises of a rookie season. The one good thing about fantasy is dude's a tank and he can run. He's 260 pounds, runs a 4.4 40. Throw him out there. I'm not worried about him getting hurt. I'm worried about him hurting defenders.
That's true. He's gonna be out there trucking people a la Josh Allen and Cam Newton. That's for sure. And even if he doesn't end up starting right away, Flea's got Gardner Minshew on the roster, so she's covered and she's got a starting quarterback one way or the other. You know, either until he gets in or as long as he's in. And if he's in, all the better.
Yeah, she did well with her team building to pick up a few other options at quarterback. She picked up Carr and Stafford pre-draft during the draft. So she's not in a buy-in if he doesn't start, but all the more upside if he does.
All right, so things are looking up for the big salad. At pick 103, we had Benign Rugg taking Bryce Young, another quarterback off the board early on. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, again, this was a chalk pick. Rugg needed a quarterback, and there happened to be the guy that went 101 in the NFL draft sitting on the board. That's an easy decision. I mean, this is a super flex league. You got to take your quarterbacks when they're available. You don't know when you're going to have top quarterbacks available in the draft or if you're going to be in position to take them. So when they're there, just take the value.
It's a good pick. Fills a need. And not much to question on that one. All right. Pick 104. Draft started to get a little bit more interesting. We had Flinch 50 take my guy, Dalton Kincaid. What'd you think about this one?
This was my favorite pick in the entire draft. I know there was a lot of people that were very upset that Mr. Kincaid went 104. A lot of people thought he was going to drop to them pretty much throughout the draft. Everyone was kind of waiting for that pick. And Flinch did well to snatch him off the board quickly. You know, this is a deep, super flex, tight end premium league. This is where you have to take elite tight ends. You know, first round pick, going to a good offense on the Bills, lacking playmakers outside of Diggs and occasionally Gabe Davis when he feels like showing up. So I think it was a smart pick. He told me before the draft, I'm going to hammer tight ends, and he was not lying. It seems like everyone in this league needs tight ends all the time. We have to start 24 every week, and there are not 24 starting worthy fantasy tight ends in the NFL. So when you get your shot,
I'm not sure there are 4.
Yeah, it seems like there's Kelsey and then a couple of other guys and about 50 feet of crap before you get to the guys that are starting in most weeks in our league.
Yeah, that's an accurate statement. And like you said, we got to start 24. Plus, they're eligible at every flex position, which means that there's probably more than 24 that are going to make starting lineups every week. And even though you only have to start 2, you're going to need more than 2 on the roster. Getting someone with that draft capital and, you know, on that good of an offense, certainly worth the pick. All right, we have pick 105, Criddle selecting CJ Stroud. Fallen into very much the same category as the Bryce Young pick to me. Do you have any alternate thoughts?
No, again, this was a pretty chalky pick. You know, he needed quarterback. There happens to be a quarterback there who went 102 in the NFL draft. So you just kind of smash that value when it's available in a super flex draft. especially if you have a need there as well.
Yeah, not a ton of analysis, but again, smart pick, fills a need, right what you want to do. Pick 106, the first of many selections in this first round and further rounds by Big. We had Jackson Smith Jigba. I'm gonna get better at saying that, but we'll just go with JSN for now.
Yeah, that's a lot easier. And again, this is another chalky pick, right? He was the first receiver taken in the draft. Most people's wide receiver 1 on most rookie boards. So there you go. Take the value. Big's looking at a kind of a soft reset with his team building, trying to gather as much assets as he can and maybe push next year. So, take the wide receiver that everyone has number 1. Easy pick.
All right. 107 is where we start to get into the section of the draft where there was a lot of movement with all the picks, as one might expect from contending teams trading away first round picks to try and gain more assets.
Yeah, this pick went on a journey.
Yeah, you were the one who tracked this all out, but I've got it written down, so I'm gonna read it off real quick.
Good luck.
Thank you. All right, so this pick was originally Judd's. He finished number 6 overall, so this was the number 7 pick. It was traded too big for Keenan Allen and Mostert at, when was that one?
This was December of last year, so this was kind of Judd's playoff push, right? He was trying to pick up a couple of extra starters.
Yeah, that's right. That was right at the end. That was I think, what was it? Right on the eve of the playoffs, wasn't it? Like week 6, not week 16, no, it would have been week 14, something like that. All right. So from Big, it went to you for pick 108 and a couple of second round swaps, one in this year, one in a future year.
Yeah, so originally when I thought maybe I might draft some players this year,
How naive.
I had a tier of 7 guys, so I really wanted to get in that top 7. The only one that would budge at the time was Big, so I just kind of flipped him a second this year so he can take more of his favored second round players and swap him one spot and just push a second into next year. That was my original thinking. I didn't end up holding on to the pick very long.
So shortly thereafter, you traded this pick and the 311 to JMC for a 24 first and second round pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was really, he wanted the picks because, as you can see, he immediately flipped them. I mean, within the minute of accepting my trade, he flipped them, right?
He had a plan.
Yeah.
And so after that was flipped immediately to Flea with the 311 that you had originally traded for Daniel Jones. Mm-hmm. So he immediately churned and burned him, got a quarterback to shore up.
He needed a quarterback. Rodgers and Brady were the 2 guys that led him to the championship last year. Brady's retired, allegedly. And Rodgers ain't getting any younger. So if he wants to keep his window open, he had to find a quarterback. And this is the one he settled on. I think it's a good trade. Worked out for both sides. At that point, Flea was collecting as many picks as possible back when she thought she was going to rebuild. She
was still in the acquisition phase at the time.
She traded away Daniel Jones and then ended up trading for a few other quarterbacks afterwards.
Yeah. And this was, if everyone was paying attention at the top, this is the pick that she used along with the 24 first to trade up to the 101 to take Bijan. Mm-hmm. And that was the last movement of this pick to Georgia Mike, her 24 first, and we got she got Bijan Robinson out of it. So heck of a journey for this one to start off there and go through all those different iterations, but ends up with Georgia Mike at the last, and he gets to make his first selection, Quentin Johnston.
Yep. Again, wide receiver, right? This is where you want to kind of invest your team value when you're looking at a longer rebuild. You're trying to avoid the positions with short shelf lives. So QJ was a good pick. I mean, personally, my wide receiver 1 on my rookie board, so you know that I liked it. I liked the landing spot, liked the talent. He was a bit of a divisive prospect for a lot of people, but I mean, I like the pick. I have no qualms with this.
No, it's definitely a smart pick. He's tying himself to one of the best quarterbacks in the league right off the right off the jump. He's was one of the only larger receivers in the draft as well. Most of the other top end receivers were, 5'7", 5'9", all these short guys and stuff like that. I guess that's too much of an exaggeration. All shorter guys comparatively, but
bunch of Smurfs.
Yeah. Like QJ, I think one of the big hesitations about him was people were worried about his hands, but I don't anticipate that being an issue.
Yeah, I mean, people were complaining about body catching and things like that, but look at his quarterback. He's playing with Max Duggan. What do you expect him to do? I mean, we're lucky if that guy can get it in the right zip code. It's a good thing Quentin Johnson has a pterodactyl wingspan.
Yeah. All right. So right after that, Georgia Mike, at 1.07, he had the 1.08 as well, which also went on a fairly circuitous route to get to him. Again, you did the legwork. I'm going to try to read it all out, though. This one was originally the pick of Mr. Good News, little Jerry Seinfeld, and he finished 5th overall. And the pick was moved originally back in, I believe it was 21, it was traded too big with the 2.08 and DJ Chark for Austin Eckler.
This was for his playoff push 2 seasons ago when he ended up winning the whole thing. So I don't think he's got any complaints about that. Eckler helped him win it.
Yeah, as you've said in chat 100 times, flags fly forever.
Exactly.
Once you get that banner, it's all the trades are worth it. All right, so after that, this will shock everyone to hear. It was traded to you for Nico Collins and Brevin Jordan and a 22 second round pick.
Yeah, the biggest thing was Big really wanted that early second round pick last year. Big loves his second round pick, so not shocking.
After that, it was traded back to Big by you. You guys just we need to get you to a room or something like that.
We like trading.
This was your 107 for 108 swap where you wanted to move up into that top 7 tier, which was the general fantasy community's consensus that in super flex leagues, this was a 7-player draft, which obviously our league's a little bit different in having the 2 tight end starting and the tight end premium scoring. So that, does make it a little bit different, but it was generally what was considered a tier break.
Yeah, and this was pre-draft too, so we didn't know that Levis was going to fall out of the first round. He looked like he was going to be an early pick. We didn't know that Kincaid was going to be a first-round pick, so that kind of moved him up a little. So you take a gamble when you're trading picks based on tiers before the actual NFL draft happens.
Yeah. So after this pick went back to Big for that swap, Big traded it to Georgia Mike for the 2.02 and 211 in this year's draft. As you said, he does love his second-round picks.
Exactly.
All right. So once all that dust settled and Georgia Mike actually got to make a pick, he did try to move on the clock, but either he didn't get the offers that he liked or no one was interested, but he ended up taking Jahmyr Gibbs, which a little bit different than Quentin Johnson or an Anthony Richardson, like we had mentioned to start a rebuild. But the value of Jahmyr Gibbs at 1.08 is not something that you can ignore.
Yeah, if you don't generally want to invest in running backs when you're looking at a deep rebuild, but if you're forced into it, this is the type of guy you want to invest in, right? A guy that's going to carry value, catching passes. He's more likely to hold value longer term than most running backs, being a top pick and adding value in the passing game. So if you're forced into it, he's the guy. And at this point, he really was. You couldn't let Gibbs fall any further. You're just throwing value away. He's a top 5 dynasty running back right now?
Yeah, he's very high up for a player who's never taken an NFL snap. But
yeah,
the number 1 dynasty running back right now has also never taken an NFL snap. So I guess we can't really get too worked up about it.
I think a lot of that too is just the state of running backs in general, right? I mean, you can see the guys that once you get past year 2, year 3, that's kind of the peak of your running back value. Once these guys start getting to a second contract, they're not going to get paid and they're not happy about it. We're seeing it all over the place. We saw it with Saquon. We were seeing it with Jacobs. We're watching it happen with JT. It's tough to hold these guys. If they're out there, they're going to produce, but it can't feel good to have them sitting on your roster with this uncertainty. They don't bring the trade value, they should when you have this kind of uncertainty. So it's a tough spot.
Another small part, I think, of the openings at the top of the running back dynasty rankings is the fact that a few of the big names from the last couple of years have dealt with pretty severe early injuries. Like you had guys like Breece Hall, who is still up at the top of those ranks, but like he might be the number one if he hadn't had the ACL. And the same thing with Javonte. And, you've got a lot of talented running backs who have suffered some pretty serious injuries. And, ETN lost a year. You got guys like Dobbins, who fits the category of was injured and also might be holding out on a contract. Like there's just, the running back position across the league is a mess. And, someone like Gibbs is, as you said, secure for the time being. So it's a worthwhile pick. All right. So after the 108, we had the 109. This pick was originally mine, traded pre-draft too big with the 3.06 for DeAndre Hopkins, Antonio Gibson, Kevin Harris, and the 411 in this year's draft. And no one hates anything more than listening to people justify their own trades. So why don't you tell me what you think about this one?
Well, I'm always anti-rookie, and I love the old guys. So this was an easy trade for me. I mean, if you're comparing Hopkins versus what was on the board, what you assumed would be on the board, maybe Addison, definitely probably Flowers. I'm assuming you weighed those two and said, I'd rather have the production that I know Hopkins is going to give me, especially in your spot. You're trying to win. You're trying to make the playoff. You're kind of in that second tier of teams where you're going to need to score to get in. It's kind of a big jumble of teams that are looking to get those last couple of spots projected at this point. So Hopkins was the right move if you're trying to push your chips in. And getting Gibson doesn't hurt. I mean, the Harris and 411 are kind of whatever. But Gibson was a nice pick too. And he didn't stay on your roster very long. But
he stayed on my roster longer than he stayed on yours for sure.
That's fair. That's very fair. But Gibson was a good get there too. It doesn't hurt to have more running backs.
Am I sure that I'm hearing that correctly from you?
Well, I mean, I prefer older running backs. If he was like 38, perfect. Then he would have stayed on my roster for a lot longer.
Makes sense. Yeah, you still have Frank Gore. Young for me. You still have Frank Gore on there, right?
Is he still in the player pool? Yeah, I may pick him up if he's still out there. I got to go check.
I think he officially retired the other day, so I think he's probably gone by now.
It's okay. I'm going to draft his son next year.
Sadly, probably accurate. All right, so that was the trade, but then the pick that Big actually got to make was Kendre Miller at running back.
Yeah, Kendre Miller was his guy. He really wanted Miller, and I get it. He was a good back. If it wasn't for the MCL injury, we didn't get to see any of his kind of pre-draft workout. But the tape was good. I mean, he looked good at TCU. Powerful, balanced, good runner. We don't know how well he can catch the ball because they really didn't use it in their offense. Doesn't mean he can't do it. But I mean, this is a guy who took the job from some 5-star recruits, forced Zach Evans to transfer. I mean, he was a good back on a championship team. Not championship winning, but championship attending. I think they attended. Can you say they attended?
Caliber. Just go with caliber. Championship caliber.
They lost. They only lost by about 50 points in the championship, but they were there.
We don't need to get into the specifics.
It's probably because he didn't play. I mean, honestly, that's probably what it was.
It certainly had to factor in, but I'm not sure he was enough for a full 50-point swing.
Yeah. So if you're looking at ADP, it was probably a little early, but to be honest, at this range, ADP is almost out the window. You see a jumble of guys that go from this until really the end of the second. I mean, it's kind of a flat tier. So go get your guys. Hey, it's your team. You want to put guys you like on your team, draft Kendre Miller.
All right. So at pick 110, which was originally your pick, we had another trade, trading your pick 110 to Flea for her 2.02 and 3.02. And then shortly thereafter for Matthew Stafford, acquired from Big, who ended up making the pick. Let's hear what you had to say, or what you have to say about your initial trade away.
Well, you know me, I hate draft picks, so Always excited to trade him away if I can. Uh, no,
Yeah,
but
and
honestly,
so much
like
that
I
you
was
traded
saying,
1 for 2.
pre-draft, I kind of had tiers, and this tier looked like a big flat tier. So I said, might as well drop back a few spots. I'm going to get a similar player in value that I thought, plus an extra pick. It turned out that some decent players fell that I wasn't expecting, but that's the gamble you take when you trade before the actual NFL draft.
Yep. And then once the selection was actually made, it was Will Levis, who was projected to go higher in the NFL draft than he did. So he slipped a little bit there, and as a result, slipped a little bit here, but still in a pretty decent position now that he's in Tennessee. What'd you think about Will Levis?
Yeah, again, a polarizing prospect. A lot of people were looking for reasons to not like him. And then when he fell in the NFL draft, it gave a lot of people the excuse, okay, now we just don't even have to worry about him. But he landed in a pretty good spot. I mean, Tannehill's coming off a down, injured year. He's going into the last year of his contract. Malik Willis didn't really work out for them last year. So there's a chance if he can play at the NFL level, which he certainly looked like he could 2 years ago. This year was kind of an injury-riddled mess. He lost a lot of NFL caliber talent, lost his offensive coordinator, had a kind of a down season. That's presumably why he dropped in the draft. But he didn't drop very far. He barely missed the first round. Tennessee took him right at the top of the second. So we'll see if he hits and he starts. This is a home run for Big. And if he doesn't, it's a late first. The hit rates aren't that great on these picks anyway, so worth a gamble.
That's a fair point. I did just get word he is no longer waiting in the green room, though, so he's good. He got to leave.
Just now, finally.
Yeah, just now, today. Everything that you just described about him perfectly describes my my crush from last year, Mr. Sam Howell. So be prepared for that.
Well, Sam Howell lasted just a bit longer than Will Levis did in the draft.
Lost all the NFL. Yeah, I had a good year the year before. Lost a bunch of NFL talent. A little bit of injury issues. Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's a slight difference between early second and fifth. But hey, look at Howell's going to get a chance to start this year, so you weren't wrong.
Which Will Levis
is going to get a
isn't.
shot. Yeah, well, we don't know. We'll see.
No, he'll have his opportunities at some point. But no, it's a smart pick. Adding good quarterback value in a super flex league can never be questioned, really.
Yep.
All right. After that, we have pick 111. Originally the commissioner's pick, Mel Crisp, and this one was also traded to Benign Rug. This was, I believe, pre-draft. Let's see, traded with Tyler Conklin and CJ Uzoma for Geno Smith and Robert Tonyan. So we got 3 different tight ends moving with this pick in this original trade.
Yeah, again, another quarterback trade here. You can see how valuable quarterbacks are in Superflex. They're always carrying value. Geno with the surprising renaissance last year. But yeah, it goes for pick 111, and Rugg turned around and took Jordan Addison. Another good pick. I mean, Addison goes a lot earlier in most drafts, so Rugg probably liked the value. Didn't need the quarterback after taking Bryce Young early. Felt a little better about his quarterback room. Flipped him, picked up a couple of tight ends. Again, tight ends in this league, always valuable. Everybody needs tight ends, always. So he picked up picked up the Jets pair, and swapped Geno, picked up Addison. It was a good trade for both sides, I think.
Absolutely. All right. And then last pick in the first round, originally league champion JMC's, traded twice, I believe, right? This one went through Flea, where she got the 112 and the 312 for DJ Moore, I think it was, wasn't it? And then
yeah, this was a trade last year. Yep. When JMC picked up DJ Moore.
And then after that went from Flea out to Big for Hollywood Brown, also pre-draft. So then Big's got his, what is this, 4th, 5th pick of the first round? Let's see, 1, 2, fourth pick of the first round, where he gets Zay Flowers, another wide receiver to pair with JSN there. What do you think about Zay Flowers?
Yeah, again, good value. This was the last of the NFL first round wide receivers. So it's a good pick at the back of the first round of a rookie draft. And really, this pick was just the result of Flea kind of flipping that switch, right? Started with the 101. As soon as she picked up that 101 and decided that she was going to take Bijan and Anthony Richardson and sell her 24 pick, she flipped a switch from collecting as many picks as possible to now wanting to compete. So she traded a lot of these later picks for vets, picked up Matt Stafford, picked up Hollywood Brown, and she wants to win. And I don't blame her, because without your 24 pick, what else are you going to do?
Yeah. That's a smart decision. Once you've committed, fully commit. And, you do with the half measures, you're going to end up with a result that nobody enjoys. But she's, like you said, she flipped the switch from rebuild to contender, and she's made some serious additions and made some serious moves in that direction. But that brings us to the end of the first round. Any overall thoughts on the entire process?
Not a ton of surprises. A lot of it was pretty chalky. I mean, obviously Big generally doesn't go with consensus. He's got his own board, as we saw posted in the league chat, what he thinks the draft should have gone. Mm-hmm. Which, hey, I mean, who's to say that any of us know better than anyone else? Like, NFL teams hit at a very low rate on these first round picks. So yeah, and at least he has his convictions.
Yeah, and there are some of these picks where we're probably going to know fairly quickly, and then there are some that are going to take a little bit longer. I mentioned it before to you. Picks like Kincaid at tight end can take a couple of years to show up actual results. Tight end doesn't generally produce in their first year, so we might not know much about that. They might use him differently, and we might know right away that he looks good, but we might not.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, you spend that kind of capital. Almost everybody that went in the first round of the rookie draft was a first round pick in the NFL draft. So these guys are usually force-fed opportunities, tight ends notwithstanding, but they need weapons. So we'll see. I think there'll be targets there for him, and it doesn't take much to be a starting tight end in this format. You won't need a ton of targets to be worth a pick.
Well, that brings us to the end of round one. We want to thank everyone for listening. On our next episode, we're going to recap the rest of the draft and review some key off-season trades. Alvarez, any final thoughts?
Yeah, please forward all complaints to Jarsal's DMs.
What do we got?
An idea.
What idea?
An idea for the show.
I still don't know what the idea is.
It's about nothing.
Right.
Everybody's doing something. We'll do nothing.
They say, what's your show about? I say nothing.
There you go.
I think you may have something here.